up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing? Basking in our post-rookie mock glory?
Basking in our glory, for sure. Just like Keith Lee would say. I don't know if you've watched any NXT or wrestling in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Pretty pumped. We had a pretty solid draft there. Kind of worked exactly as we imagined it would, at least for the first few picks. Obviously, once you get into like the late second, third round, kind of random. You're just throwing darts. But I think our first three picks, didn't really get to do too much trading early on, but worked out in our favor for sure.
Not for lack of trying.
Definitely not for lack of trying.
There's some people, I think the 103 owner wanted Pitts, the 105 thought he would get Chase, I guess thinking the wide receivers or the running backs will all go early and maybe Pitts goes, but we tried making trades with them, it didn't really work out, but you're trading up to some high draft picks, it's hard to get rid of the capital, especially as a contending team who already lost their picks last year for next year. But yeah, it's fair. All our trading came in the second round. Well, we had the 202, traded our way all the way back to 205. I forget, did we make 3 trades? We moved back one spot each time, or
I think it was 2. I'm pulling it up now. 5. When did we start this? 5, like 8, something like that. 523. Was it? It was last week, right?
Yeah.
There's the Mahomes trade. Yeah, so the first trade of the draft was 109, trading down to 111 and getting a 210. So our first trade, we moved from 202 to 204, picked up the 305, and then kind of moving down one spot and, moving down like in the whole fourth round pretty much to get like a third next year pretty much. So...
Right, because so I remember now our target was Elijah Moore at the 202. The guy jumping up to the 202 had said he was targeting Fields, and we believed him. And we looked at the 203 and said, he's got Denzel Mims already. He's not going to draft Elijah Moore. We can get him at 204.
Yeah, so he dropped back.
Yeah, and then I don't know why. I know we had a reason for rolling the dice on going back to 205. I think... we thought he wanted a running back.
I think we knew he either wanted running back or quarterback, and then when we were talking to him, it sounded like quarterback was the option. And we did. I think someone else reached out to you as well about quarterback, so we were able to kind of pit two people against each other. And guy at 205 wanted to move up a spot to guarantee he got his guy, which I think anyone would pay a third the next year to get the guy they want as opposed to getting your second option.
Yeah, instead of rolling the dice, for sure. And that gave us a little bit of pick capital because, like I said, we have depleted our capital for next year already.
Yeah, 3/3 and a fourth now.
We got 3/3.
But we only had 2/3 going into the draft, so we did stock a few there, which is nice.
Yeah, so if we could package a third of the player, he can move up to a second or something this year, This way to pull that off. But yeah, we did good there, and then snagged Amari Rodgers in the third, Brevin Jordan, 2 guys that we really liked, and we're happy to see get to us there. Was it 303 and 305, right? Yeah, always good. And then the 412, we're allowed to draft free agents at our draft. I don't think everyone allows such a thing, but we picked up Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think that's a pretty interesting grab.
Yeah. I mean, there's some interesting rookies like Tyler Wallace went off right before us at the 411, which I think is pretty late for him. Definitely tough to be the second receiver drafted on a team with not a high passing volume, but there's still no one super established there, so I still think he's got a shot. But other than that, there really wasn't too much available. Kyle Trask, Dez Fitzpatrick, Darden, who's probably going to sit for a couple of years there in Tampa. So I think, we wanted to get someone that probably has a better chance of actually playing this year. And you'd imagine worst case scenario, he's probably their fourth receiver, right?
Yeah. And he's a guy that, he's not a rookie anymore, right? He's already got that year of experience, and that's nice to have. So, we'll see what happens. 412, there is no pick capital there. So if he doesn't work out, then whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never opposed to, kind of punting that pick to the next year as well, but it seemed like there wasn't too many people chomping at the bit to move into that spot anyway. So just took a guy that we think might be able to help us this year.
Anything else you think we should bring up from the draft before we move on?
I think we went over a few of our picks, but we didn't touch on our first two. We had the 101.
Oh, yeah, our first two.
Najee
True.
Harris. That was kind of the goal when we made the trade there to get Najee. We traded, I think, probably said it either on a different podcast where we went over our recent trades or even through Twitter, but we ended up trading what amounted to be Chubb and a couple of future picks for the 101 and the 108, and we end up getting Najee at 101 and Trevor Lawrence at 108, which was someone we were eyeing up with our highest pick pre-trade, which was 202, but we weren't confident he was going to get there. I know 2 quarterbacks did go off the board, including us before that 202 pick, so definitely nice to see that we were able to get the guy we wanted there at 108. So definitely got a couple of the guys that we were hoping for.
Yeah, ideally we won't have to draft a quarterback for a very long time.
Yep, that's the hope when you get a guy that is hopefully thought to be a generational talent. So we will see.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. Cool. Well, that takes care of our quick recap of our Dynasty rookie draft. Now it is June. We're jumping back into mock draft season for us. So if you're new to the show, we primarily do mock drafts. At this point, we'll be doing one a week here instead of the every other week. But we just enjoy doing mock drafts. So we start up the podcast and we'll do different formats: PPR standard, half point, dynasty startup, tight end premium, super flex. We'll kind of bounce around. Me and Will like playing around with different strategies as well. I don't know about you, Will, but this is the first real mock we're doing of the season. I probably won't screw around with any strategies and just kind of do what I would normally do in a draft and play it by ear, see who drops to me. It's more about finding out ADPs and what your team structure could look like than kind of playing around with different strategies.
Especially early on. This is I know you may have done a few just kind of on your own there. This will be the first one I've done all mock draft season. So June 1st seems like a good place to start here. Start getting an idea of where the ADPs are. So you'll maybe see me live panicking on the clock, trying to figure out where people are and what's available.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. This year, we will be bouncing a little bit between Sleeper and Fantasy Pros. Year one, we were pretty much exclusively Sleeper. Last year was about 50-50 because Sleeper's ADPs is never really updated. Antonio Brown was up in like the third round that year or something like that. But this year we're going to bounce around. Sleeper's ADPs are looking pretty good, and Sleeper gives you a good opportunity to mock when a lot of people are drafting 2 quarterbacks. Fantasy Pros gives you kind of the opposite. They tend to draft 1. Fantasy Pros also gives us a little bit better from like a super flex perspective. So we're bouncing back and forth to get some different perspectives because every league is a little bit different, especially when it comes to quarterback drafting.
Yeah, and you're always going to see, one guy that's going to take 2, one that's going to go super early. But for the most part, I think, anyone who's been in the league a few times, you're usually going to see most teams only take 1 quarterback just because, being a 1 quarterback league, there's just a lot of value out there for the quarterback position. You don't necessarily need that many. You don't want to roster clog since you're going to start one of them. You want to look at those more depth positions like wide receiver and running back.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity to try to know your league a little bit. I know, and I've showed you, I've shared it with you, Will, that I go through in our past drafts and I've documented who drafts 2 quarterbacks, who tends to draft them early, who tends to draft them late. And then when the draft actually comes around, I know, okay, this guy's grabbing 2. So if I'm going late and, I'm looking, everyone's got their quarterback, but this guy's in front of me, I know he could snipe me because he'll be looking for a backup. I take that into consideration. So know your league a little bit. I'm sure not every league out there has everyone drafting 1. I think off the top of my head, I think we got 4 people that draft 2, maybe 3.
I think it may be ranged year to year, maybe like somewhere in the 3 to 5 range.
We've seen it dwindle a lot too. I think like year 1, it was like 7 and then it dropped to 5 and now it's starting to stabilize in that like sub 5.
Yeah, you're always going to have a couple people, maybe 1 or 2 that, just kind of believe in drafting 2, or maybe, if you are a late quarterback and you want to grab 2 at the end, see which one starts out hot.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know, not in our league, you drafted Lamar
Mhm.
Jackson, but if you drafted Lamar Jackson in his breakout year late, maybe you paired him with a Matthew
Yep.
Stafford, or someone that's considered a little more solid that you can get late to
Yeah.
kind of hedge.
Maybe
But
you want Joe
yeah,
Burrow this year, but you're a little worried about the early start of the year because of the injury. So you grab Burrow, and then you get someone that has a good, first week or two schedule wise.
exactly. So say all that to say, we bounce around a little bit to provide some different perspectives. Today we are going to be on Sleeper. You can follow us on YouTube at Trust Your Board, or follow along with the board with us if you would like. Will is drafting out of the 5th spot. I am out of the 11th spot. Will, you ready to get started?
Pitter patter.
Let's get at her.
It's an interesting spot here at 5. So I feel like this is, at first I was looking at where Sleeper has kind of the break of who you'd get and who you wouldn't. And I was looking from 6 down, and I'm like, oh, I really want to get one of these top 5 guys. And then I realized I have the 5th pick. So kind of run it down. I believe, and it did kind of go a little out of order than I would have imagined, but I do believe there is a top 5 here. I don't know if you will be in line with me here with this 5th guy, but I think the top 4 that just went, makes sense. It went Cook number 1, Kamara number 2, McCaffrey number 3, and Derrick Henry number 4. Now it is PPR, so some people discount Henry, but at this point, I think, you just, even in a redraft style, you kind of just have to ride him until the wheels fall off because he's just been too much of a beast, even without a ton of receptions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear all the time, like, I don't want Derrick, not that they don't want him, but they'll put people ahead of Derrick Henry because he doesn't catch passes. And then year after year after year, he's like the RB4.
Him, Nick Chubb, there's a couple guys that just, don't traditionally catch passes, even though they'll catch a few, but they're just so good at the rest of the running game that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they might have the sky high upside that a McCaffrey has, but he's Henry's in the top 5 every year. Like, I'm not going to pass that up just because he's not catching passes. So, like you said, not sure about the order. I imagine McCaffrey's a 1-on-1 for most, but that's a solid top 4. There's no questions there.
So here for me, it's fairly easy. Saquon Barkley is still on the board. I think if he doesn't get hurt last year, he's probably still that 102, 101 with McCaffrey, like he was last year. I get people maybe being a little hesitant with the injury, but you got to look at it. He's still young, still has high draft capital. There's a lot that are just kind of playing in his favor when it comes to recovery. He's, notably been just one of those freakish recovery guys. I believe he got hurt, what was supposed to be like an 8-week injury and came back in 3 weeks and played the rest of the season 2 years ago. So he's someone I'm fully confident in coming back fully healthy. And as much as, everyone kind of jokes, and makes fun of the Giants, their team did get notably better this year. You bring in Kenny Galladay at wide receiver. You draft Tony in the first round, who think he's going to be more of a gadgety guy, but just overall is going to help the offense. And you still have Sterling Shepard. You still have Evan Ingram. You still have Darius Slayton. So there's a lot of passing weapons there. So it all comes down to Daniel Jones, obviously, but he's got the weapons on his side, to be able to distribute. And I think all that's just going to spell it's going to spell good things for Saquon. So fairly easy here for me to get Saquon, knowing, hey, maybe it's a slightly slower start. But, if anybody's going to be able to come out 100% week 1, it's Saquon. He catches a ton of passes, freakish athlete, and I think he's on a better offense that he's maybe one of the best offenses that he's been on, in his career here with the amount of weapons that are surrounding him. And this is Daniel Jones's year 3, right? So
Yep.
Easy for me here at Saquon before I draft him. Any thoughts? Anybody you're hoping would fall to you? What are you thinking there at 11?
Oh boy, I have no idea. I mean, my back end strategy is always to try to strike even, so I'll probably grab a running back and a wide receiver. But it depends on who gets to me. I'm just looking at the way Sleeper's projecting it. I'd be looking at Aaron Jones, Metcalf, Hopkins, Diggs, Joe Mixon, Eckler. I would be happy with all of that. We'll see. I think in the mock that I did when I was testing like ADPs and whatnot, Zeke actually got back to like the 110. So, maybe he slips through the cracks, but we will see. But that's a tier I'm looking at. I'd be happy with all them guys. So we'll see.
All right. Well, after I take Barkley, was Chubb at 6, Adams at 7, Jonathan Taylor at 8, Mr. Tyreek Hill at 9, and Ezekiel Elliott at 10.
Yeah. So you have the temptation of Kelsey here.
Yeah,
tight end. That's pretty interesting, but
that is a huge, kind of advantage at the position.
It is,
sure.
And now that I'm watching it, I'm wondering if I really kind of don't want to do my normal strategy, which is to break it up between the two. But I really don't know how the ADPs are going to fall. I'm looking at like Aaron Jones and Eckler, and I'd be really happy with that here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what running backs would get back to me in the third. That's kind of why you experiment early, right? You just try to figure this stuff out. I'll stick with the strategy that I outlined in the beginning. That's my usual. I'll stick to it. I'll go with Aaron Jones with my first pick here. Metcalf and Diggs goes off. I was really hoping Diggs would get to me. It would have been. So I guess D-Hop would be the play here.
Yeah. Year 2 with Kyler, you imagine it's on. It's going to get better. I know he was, not what everyone was hoping last year, but he's still an elite receiver with a very good quarterback. So you imagine they're only going to get better with time together.
Not super interested, and you're not super worried about AJ Green. It's a fine dart throw. I think he's going real late in drafts, so you want to throw a dart there. That's fine, but I'm not worried about him. So I will take DeAndre Hopkins to strike that even balance. But man, I really like to add Eckler, or maybe even a Mixon. I'm kind of done dealing with Mixon and like a different excuse every year. But it could be another good year for him. But I'd like Eckler more. So it's tough. But I'll go Hopkins. We'll see who gets back to me. We'll play the game a little bit here. Travis Kelce goes right after me to 2-3. J.K. Dobbins there, Eckler, Joe Mixon, and A.J. Brown to you.
Yeah, a lot of big-time guys going off the board there. You said, Kelce would have been someone I don't think I could pass on, pairing him with a Barkley. A couple of big running backs. I want to be in on Mixon, but I'm kind of there with you. It's just annoying to see what he's done every year. So Eckler probably would have been the running back of choice there. I know you and I are both big fans of Dobbins. Probably just going to be him and Gus this year, so a little more open. And A.J. Brown, still just the man there in Tennessee. We'll see if they get Julio, but that would have been nice. So at this point, you still got Pat Mahomes sitting there staring you down. A tough one to pass on, but, going to try to stick to our strategy of not going quarterback early. So all the tight ends available, not really looking at Kittle at this point. So at this point, it's either strike the first receiver or, get my second running back here. We'll see what the kind of tiers look like, but got Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Julio, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson. So still some decent receivers that I wouldn't mind trying to get as my wide receiver 1 in the next round. Running back, I think, there probably is a drop-off coming up. We've got a lot of second-year, third-year guys with Akers, Swift, Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, Jacobs, Harris. I think there is a drop-off coming there. So we're going to strike at running back. Here it is between Akers and Swift for me. I'd like Gibson, I like Sanders as well. But I think for me, this is going to be a big year for DeAndre Swift. Traded him away in the Dynasty League last year to try to make a run. End up getting Nick Chubb out of it, but someone that I think this team is just fully built around him. As everyone saw the video, that draft room was thrilled to get the number 1 offensive tackle in the draft. It seems like they're just going to build around him. And Jared Goff, while he's a good quarterback, he's not the sling it 40 times that Stafford was. This team seems like they're going to be built around the run, open up play action passing for Goff and the young receivers that they have. But even with Jamal Williams in tow, I think he's going to be a good 1B, but Swift is going to be the guy here. So we'll lock in Swift, pair him with Barkley, and hope that maybe one of the top receivers can get back. After that goes Pat Mahomes, Cam Akers, George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, Antonio Gibson, Miles Sanders, Keenan Allen, and Michael Thomas. That would have been pretty interesting. Thomas getting back in the third round. Not huge on the situation, but he is still an elite receiver, so definitely couldn't pass on him. For looking at what's available, still just those top 2 tight ends off the board. Mahomes goes. Looking at running back, still got Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Clyde, Chris Carson, ETN, Kareem Hunt. So some decent guys. Jacobs, is interesting, but I think I've got to strike at receiver here because I think there's still some top guys left. Calvin Ridley is probably going to be the guy for me here. Julio. If Julio doesn't get moved, they probably are still pretty close, but I think there's probably more of an upside with Ridley. It's just getting better, and ideally, if you look at the last couple of years, he's been more consistent when it comes to health too. Mike Evans, big touchdown guy, but not someone that I think I really want to build around as my top receiver. The only other guys I think that I'd consider be Allen Robinson and McLaurin, but at this point, I'm confident in the quarterback play of Matt Ryan. Likely the number 1 targets now of Calvin Ridley, with the thought that Julio does get moved. And, we'll see what happens with the running game that they have there. We'll see what happens with new tight end and Kyle Pitts. But, one thing's going to be known that Calvin Ridley is going to get his target. So locking in Calvin Ridley as my top wide receiver, pairing with Barkley and Swift. After him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Julio Jones, Josh Jacobs, Allen Robinson, and Najee Harris.
So I am left in a pretty interesting spot. I'll read off the running backs and the wide receivers available real quick. We have Chris Carson, Travis Etienne, Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin, Melvin Gordon. So not the worst options there, but we're definitely at a tier break. Wide receiver, we got Mike Evans, man. Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, that kind of tier. So I do wish that I had pivoted and grabbed Aaron Jones and Eckler, because I would like Aaron Jones, Eckler, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper more than Aaron Jones, D-Hop, Carson and Mike Evans, maybe something like that. I'm also in the spot where I wouldn't mind grabbing a tight end right now.
Still got a guy like Andrews there.
You got Andrews, you got Waller, you got Hawk.
Well,
I know me and you tend to be decent with the late round tight end strategy, and I don't know if this is the year to try to pull that off, man. It's I don't know. Are you feeling the same way? Seems kind of worrisome.
Yeah, I think it all just, and I'm still trying to gauge where to take the guys, because there's like 4, 5, 6 maybe, 7 if you want to throw Pitts in there, because he probably is going to be a tight end 1 this year by just judging by how bad the position is.
Yeah, it's tough with the fall of Ertz and Jonnu and Hunter Henry kind of eating each other up there. It's gotten a little messy, but either way, I'm going to punt tight end and just kind of roll the dice. I'll stick with my strategy, grab one of each. Chris Carson is a tier above everyone else for running backs. I'd be thrilled with having him as my 2. So still happy there. So I will grab Chris Carson. We'll see who gets back to me. There goes Waller at the end of the 3rd. Mike Evans starts the 4th. So Mike Evans a big loss. So looking at a wide receiver to keep me even here. And I got McLaurin on the board. We got Chris Godwin. We got Amari Cooper. It's between, I think, McLaurin and Amari Cooper. I think Cooper could be in for a very big year this year. Famous last words that people say every year, but that's just not his fault. That's, a Dak situation. But I just don't know if I could trust him as my 1. I think I'm going to go with McLaurin. I just feel a little bit safer. And maybe I shouldn't be discounting Chris Godwin, but I think I like McLaurin a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and lock him in for my second wide receiver here. Travis Etienne goes next in the 4-3. We've got 2 quarterbacks going off the board. Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. There goes Amari Cooper. Robert Woods right before your pick here at the 408.
Yeah, so got some interesting guys still on the board. Not really looking at quarterback, but you still have Lamar, Murray, and Dak, Justin Herbert, Rodgers. So still quite a few good QBs available. Still got Mark Andrews on the board, so that's interesting. I know probably would risk it here with one guy behind me having taken tight end. So for some reason he gets back in the fifth, I think that's, got to be an easy person to take, possibly even Hawkinson, in the fifth round. But looking at the running back position, there's not much. Kareem Hunt, Gaskin, Melvin, and like kind of that elite level. Mostert even is interesting. But you still got a guy like Chris Godwin on the board that I think had a down year last year for what he did the year before. So I think he's going to be, a little undervalued. So getting him here in the fourth round, I think is a no-brainer. You got Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore still there, Jamar Chase. Not huge on taking rookie receivers, especially early. If I can get one a little bit later and just kind of take a shot, but they're, it's just, we've seen track records where sometimes they do break out, like your Justin Jefferson, but a lot of times you're going to see them take a little while to come on, and you don't want to kind of waste a ton of space on your roster there. So I'm going to look at Chris Godwin here and then see if, maybe I can gamble and have a Kareem Hunt fall back to me, or even, one of the tight ends in Mark Andrews. Maybe reach on TJ Hawkinson if I really want to lock that position down. But this one's going to be Chris Godwin here. So we take Godwin, Kyle Pitts goes, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Myles Gaskin, Tyler Lockett, Devonta Smith, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon. So both of the guys I was looking at still on the board here. Mark Andrews, Kareem Hunt. So this is really where I have to decide if I want to get, kind of that maybe last tier of running back at a really, a position that is scarce and probably more valuable than tight end, or, kind of get the end of that tier of guys that you really trust in Mark Andrews. It's tough. I think at this point, I probably would have to go running back just because of the positional value and just kind of test out the waters. Maybe Mark Andrews and Hawkinson make it to you and you let one of them get back to me. We'll see. But can't really pass on a guy like Kareem Hunt here. Mostert's interesting as well if I want to, if Hunt was gone. But getting a third running back in Kareem Hunt just kind of gives me a little bit of stability. If I am a little worried about Barkley starting the year, maybe he misses week 1 and 2 or something like that. You have DeAndre Swift and Hunt to kind of plug in with Ridley and Godwin to start. So pretty happy with the way that the roster is being built right now. So we're going to go with Kareem Hunt. After him, Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson go. So not getting back to me, let alone getting to you. A little bit of a run there. Jamar Chase and then Noah Fant goes. And then James Conner to you. So it looks like we are going late tight end this year, huh?
Yeah. I was prepared to talk about the really bad decisions that I had to make because I would have really liked David Montgomery here and Kenny Galladay. And I really thought Hawkinson was going to make it here. So obviously I could only pick 2 of them. But that problem seems to have alleviated itself. So on the board, we'll run down every position here real quick. Still Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Dak in the 5th round. They are becoming interesting. Especially Lamar. I forget the stat, but I think it was the last 8 games this season, last 10 games this season last year, he was back to being like a quarterback 2 on the year or something to that degree. Mm-hmm. Everybody remembers the beginning of the year when he wasn't that great, but he turned it on. At the running back position, we got Mostert, David Johnson, Chase Edmonds, Ronald Jones, David Montgomery. At wide receiver, Odell Beckham, Cortland Sutton, Jarvis Landry, Adam Thielen, Kenny Galladay. And at tight end, Gesicki, Gronk, Ertz, Tunyon, Evan Ingram. Kind of messy there. But for now, I'm going to keep with my strategy and draft one of each. I'll probably start breaking that strategy up after the next round, especially if one of those quarterbacks gets back. I find that hard to believe, but maybe. So the running back that I like here, I mean, Mostert's got sky high upside given, the offense that he's on. He hasn't stayed healthy. So I'm not going to draft him here. David Johnson's offense is just terrible. I mean, maybe he catches his way to fantasy relevance, but I'm just not super interested there. Chase Edmonds could be good, but you got the split with Connor that you don't know how it's going to work out, and I'm not interested in Rojo this year. So David Montgomery is a pretty clear option for me. The offense got an upgrade, moving on from Trubisky, regardless, in my opinion, whether it's Dalton or Fields. And he was solid in the back half of the year last year. So I will lock in Montgomery. I'd be really happy to have him as my third running back there. Makes me feel a little bit better about dodging Eckler or missing out on Eckler.
I was surprised to see him this far down. Like looking at some of the guys that were there, going ahead of him, Connor, ETN, Fournette. Like I just think Montgomery, and I get, we had the injury to Cohen last year, but I just still think he is kind of like a safe, definitely a safe RB3, even potentially RB2 guy for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think he was the RB4 for a while last year. I don't remember if he ended there, but I mean, he was solid last year. Now, I'm with you. I don't know. Like, it feels like he should be going earlier than this. Much earlier than this. I keep looking back and I'm seeing Devontae Smith up there, the 5'2", and something about that just doesn't seem right to me. I can talk my way around ETN because rookie fever and that kind of stuff, and Fournette because of the playoff run. I can get behind that, but Montgomery and Devonta Smith, not super thrilled about seeing where they're getting drafted. Something seems up there. But either way, we will press on at the wide receiver position. To just a reminder, Beckham, Landry, Thielen, Kenny Galladay. Sutton was the only one that goes off the board. I had mentioned before Kenny Galladay was the one I wanted. I think he could have a lot of volume with the Giants. I could see them still playing from behind in a fair amount of games. He should be the one catching a lot of the touchdowns. I could see a big year for him. Will they get up to the wide receiver 1? I don't know. But he is my 3, so I don't need him to get up that high. If he's a solid wide receiver 2, I'm thrilled with that. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Kenny G there. Not worried about coming off the injury or anything. I'm still pretty confident in him. There goes one of these quarterbacks. Finally there, Will. Kyler Murray goes off right after me. OBJ, Landry, David Johnson, and Chase Edmonds. Picks to you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You still have Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott available. I think, once again, kind of looking at the way the draft works out, I've got one team behind me that has a quarterback, so there's a chance one of them go, but I'd be more than okay with either of them going into the year. So here in the 6th round, I probably, since I don't want to go early quarterback, but don't know that I can really pass them, in this round or next round, I probably risk it one more time, and if one of them gets back to me, pretty hard pressed to pass them again. So if I'm looking at some other positions that I'm interested in, Mike Gesicki called out to me as a guy that, probably isn't in that top tier, but is in kind of that middle tier of guys. I know you and I said we, kind of weren't in love with the offense overall, but I do think, there's a lot of weapons there, but he's probably one of the more established ones. Parker, was there for a while, but he's been kind of up and down. And Gesicki, I don't think he's on his contract year yet, but he might be. Is this his 4th year?
Yeah, I think it is, actually.
Yeah, so contract year, maybe a little extra incentive. So he's someone that I'm strongly considering here. Quarterback, I don't consider now, but think about possibly in the next, swing. So we'll look at the running back receiver position, see what's available. We've got Adam Thielen, we've got Juju Smith-Schuster, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, all pretty good options that I think are potential breakout guys. CeeDee Lamb probably calls to me the most out of those 3. So if I wanted to go receiver, I like CeeDee as like a upside guy, especially with the volume I think I get out of Ridley and Godwin, and some stability that I have at running back already. Running back does look pretty dried out here. Ronald Jones, James Robinson. If someone's going to take the shot on Robinson and hope that he holds the job for as long as he can. Javonte Williams, probably, not the time to take him for me here, but he's someone that I wouldn't mind grabbing and stashing. He could be kind of like an emergency option should the guys that I like not get back to me here in this round. But I think what I'm going to do is go with CeeDee Lamb as my 3rd receiver and then see if either the quarterbacks or tight end get back to me. There's other guys at the positions that I like a little more. So, worst case could potentially come away with Javonte in the next round as well as my 4th running back. But here, I'm going to take the stab at CeeDee Lamb. There's still 3 receivers there, right? But I think, he takes a step forward. And if he is the level of wide receiver that a lot of us believe he is, I think that, he should be able to pass Gallup this year as kind of the wide receiver 2 on that team. I think they're going to still a pretty high passing volume because while they did address the defense, I still think it's going to take some time for that defense to get better. So this team, scored a lot of points last year without Dak for most of the year. So if he's back and healthy all year, and thrilled to have one of the guys that, likely is going to blow up a few times throughout the year and be probably fairly consistent the other games. So we're going to lock in Mr. CeeDee Lamb. Here is my 6th pick, 3rd wide receiver, and see what gets back. So Ronald Jones, Mike Gesicki, Lamar Jackson, Adam Thielen, Juju Smith-Schuster, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson. So gives me the opportunity here to put my bias of being an Eagles fan aside and pair back-to-back Cowboys with Dak Prescott still on the board. Still have Justin Herbert, Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence. There's some decent guys available there. And it's still, fairly early, but I think all reports say Dak's looking pretty good here in early training camp. I think he is practicing, maybe not fully, but he's out there running around, throwing. So I don't think there's a ton of worry with him that he won't start the season. Obviously, re-injury is always something potential. But Dak's probably at the top of my list here. I do like Javonte Williams as well, but it seems like a little bit more of a luxury pick. You're getting some depth there, but he's a guy that probably would take, midseason to break out. So maybe he gets back to me. We'll see. Wide receiver, still have your DJ Chark, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Claypool. A decent level of receiver, but I think that's all kind of in, that next tier that I'm okay getting, somebody there a little bit lower as my 4th receiver. So with not really a ton of tight ends available, we got Gronk, Ertz, Tunyon, and Grant and Ingram available as the top guys on ADP. Some of the decent younger guys and vets later that I wouldn't mind grabbing as the guy. So I'm going to go with quarterback here, and we're going to pair Dak Prescott in there with CeeDee Lamb and kind of have, I think, one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in this league, really, especially for fantasy on the team. So we'll lock in Dak. After Dak goes Herbert, Javonte Williams, as I mentioned, Gronk, Waddle, and DJ Chark. To you.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. Like you're faced with the quarterback question. I too am staring down Aaron Rodgers, who would be, a big win here. Trevor Lawrence, not super interested in. Burrow, interesting. Watson, not touching. Brady's pretty interesting, but as we had talked before, the late round quarterback landscape a little bit different this year. It's a little bit more worrisome. You got Matt Ryan down there. You roll the dice on Trey Lance or
Stafford, some rookies.
Stafford, Wentz.
Jalen Hurts probably wouldn't be bad just for the fantasy volume, rushing.
Yep, the rushing. So he's not bad. But I will go ahead and just pass on the quarterback again. There's a lot of quarterbacks taken in this one. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams without one. So I'm going to roll the dice and see if one could get back to me in the 9th round. Not in love with the running backs, at least at the top of the board. I mean, one does jump out at me. You got Kenyon Drake, interesting. Todd Gurley's still up here. He could have some touchdown volume if he lands somewhere. Zach Moss is kind of interesting. I don't know if he's interesting at this point, but he's interesting. Trey Sermon's okay, but not this early. Devin Singletary's whatever. Mike Davis. Mike Davis is my 4th running back. Seems pretty solid. I don't mind that at all. So that's pretty cool at the wide receiver position. T. Higgins, pretty cool. I would like that. Chase Claypool, not bad. Brandon Cooks, Hollywood Brown, Jerry Judy, Will Fuller. So what I'm thinking, or my strategy is kind of coming to light here, looking at some of the names. And like you said, tight end, Wolf.
It's not great.
It's not great. Going down the list a little bit further, Dallas Goedert's there. That's interesting. I guess if you want to take a late round dart throw this year, it'd probably be Blake Jarwin.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
Time for Blake again.
yeah, time to give that another chance. But for now, I was expecting to break off from the strategy of the back and forth here, but I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to draft. Which one do I need to draft first? I'm going to draft Mike Davis first here. Give myself another running back. So that'd be Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, and Mike Davis. I'm pretty comfortable with that running back group. Aaron Rodgers goes off the board. Kenyon Drake. Pick is back to me. I feel pretty safe with my wide receivers. Hopkins, McLaurin, Galladay. Hopkins should be a wide receiver 1. I think McLaurin has the opportunity this year to make that jump, but probably a solid 2. Galladay, probably a solid 2. Maybe both of them could get into low end 1s, but probably solid 2s. I'm going to take an upside shot here on Jerry Judy. Potential breakout year for him. I'm kind of worried with, the quarterback situation not being the greatest and Sutton coming back, but, don't forget the hype around Jerry Judy last year, entering his second year. I think he could take a step forward. It's just pure upside shot. I don't need to play it safe right now. Like I just said, I'm very comfortable with what I have, so I feel like I can afford to roll the dice, and that is what I'm going to do. So we're going to lock in Mr. Judy there, keep myself at 4 wide receivers and 4 running backs. T. Higgins goes off the board right after me. Gurley, Claypool, Trevor Lawrence, and Bateman.
Yeah, not in love with kind of what's on the board right now. If we're looking, don't really look at quarterback at this point. Tight end, we still got those same top guys and decent lower guys. Irv Smith's another one that's interesting. I know you mentioned Goddard, Logan Thomas, and Higbee, Jaron Cook are all kind of later veteran guys that I wouldn't mind. So going to punt that position as well. This is where it gets tough because there's some decent receivers available. No one that I'm not a ton that I'm thrilled to grab. And then there's really not too much left at running back. I did get 3 that I really like early, but definitely want to get another one here soon. It's not a lot available, though. You got Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, Michael Carter, Trey Sermon. Nyheim Hines is a guy that I think is interesting, especially in full PPR. But just given that I'm not thrilled with any of them, probably I'm going to strike at a receiver that I like first, grab that 4th receiver here, and then kind of see which one of them get back to me, as I'm not, like I said, overly thrilled with any of them. You got, some interesting guys. Not a huge fan of Cooks. I don't really love the boomer bust guys, so you would probably pass on Hollywood Brown and Will Fuller. Laviska's interesting, rookie quarterback, but we'll see. Tyler Boyd, I think, is someone that a lot of people are fading, but I think he probably is going to be maybe the more consistent guy, and then, going to go back and forth between Higgins and Chase, who's like the big play dude. But if Boyd's, locked into the slot, they run a lot of 3 receiver sets. He could be somebody that's interesting. No, Corey Davis, I think, is coming off of an injury. So I don't know where he stands. I don't think he's practicing yet. So I don't know if that could bode poorly for him just to kind of start, right? You'll have Denzel Mims, you'll have Elijah Moore, kind of getting early reps with the rookie quarterback in Zach Wilson. But we'll see. I mean, Corey Davis is paid there. Somebody that I think maybe their ADP isn't fully updated is Deebo Samuel still sitting here. Am I missing something with Deebo?
No, but there's a lot of hype around Ayuk.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the year last year, but you have to keep in mind, like Kittle was out, Debo was out, Mostert was out for a lot of seasons. So yeah, Ayuk did really well without anyone around him. With everyone returning, I think he goes back to playing third fiddle. So I'm with you. I see Debo as a value. Yeah. Whether there's a mistake here or not, I don't know. This does seem pretty
ranked
low.
116 right now. Yeah. Like, I think this is probably about where he would go, kind of. Bateman doesn't seem like someone I would want to take over him. Maybe you'd want to take the shot at Bateman just being an elite talent and, superseding, not getting the volume for a passing offense. But if I'm looking at the receivers, Debo calls out to me. You got Michael Pittman down here, Devontae Parker, so some decent guys. But I think Debo calls out as just kind of a really big value here, getting him as my 4th receiver. So I'm going to go him, and we'll see if any of those running backs call out, or if I want to go with the 5th receiver based on what's there. So if you go Debo, Brandon Cooks goes, Joe Burrow, Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson, Hollywood Brown, Tunyon, Laviska, and Tom Brady. And the nice thing about that, I think Laviska is the only person I was even considering coming back to me here. So pretty happy to see all those guys still on the board. With all those running backs that I mentioned, I'm not thrilled with them. I imagine some will go, but I'm going to guess, out of like Sermon, Carter, Naeem Hines, and maybe a couple of other decent guys. There's going to be somebody still there, so I don't feel the need to really strike. I think I can kind of load up on these receivers that I've got and give me some trade bait if I really need it, but I'm pretty confident in the 3 running backs that I got. So going to kind of load up at receiver here. Tyler Boyd seems like a pretty good value at this point as well, as I talked up. You got Curtis Samuel. Michael Pittman's interesting too. I don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz, so who knows what that offense is going to look like. For me here, it's either Boyd or Pittman. And I've got some pretty good consistency with Ridley and Godwin. Maybe, a little bit more uncertainty with what the role is going to be for Lamb and Debo. So I think I'll lock in a little bit more certainty here with Tyler Boyd as my 5th receiver, and just kind of take the value of a guy that I think, is someone that I'll be able to plug in. Maybe I can make a trade and trade a CD Lamb for another running back and be able to have Debo and Tyler Boyd as my 3rd and 4th receiver. So he's a guy that I feel pretty confident in, as a really good depth guy, and allows me to trade some people ahead of him. So we'll see what happens after that. We got Justin Fields goes, Matt Stafford. So a couple of double quarterbacks being drafted there. Evan Ingram, Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, and it gets to you here in the 9th round.
Yeah, so I am getting a little nervous about this quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I am the last team without a quarterback. We've seen 3 double up already. In fact,
still got some decent guys though. Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Hurts.
There are. So
probably it though.
Yeah, right. Unless you want to like roll the dice that Wentz is really good, you can grab him late.
Ooh, Tim Tebow has quarterback eligibility here. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I need. Wentz, I guess, is interesting. I don't know who's rolling the dice into. I know some people roll the dice on Daniel Jones. Some people still like Derek Carr a lot. I like Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I wouldn't roll the dice on him, but I like him. Ryan Fitzpatrick's down there. A real interesting one, Will, way down here, and it's because we don't know what's happening, is Jameis Winston.
Yeah. That's someone that, if you really want to roll the dice on last round, you could take a shot on him and like a Jared Goff just in case.
Yeah.
If it comes out like, week 1 that he's not starting, you can always pick somebody up that, like I said, like a Jared Goff or just a decent guy. Because you imagine there'll be a low-end starting quarterback available. Yeah,
and that's what you'd have to do, if you are in a league that is starting their redrafts already, which is really early, but some do it. If you're taking Winston, you like you said, you need to pair with a Goff or something like that. But and same thing with Taysom. Most of us will have clarity in that situation later on, and I'm sure Jameis is going to fly up the board. But I'm happy with. I'd be okay with Cousins. I'd be happy with Hurts, and I'd be happy with Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be it right now. But I am looking at Zach Moss, and I'm kind of interested there. Mostly because, A, it's a running back. It'd be my 5th running back and roll the dice. And I somewhat still believe he could be decent. It's just an upside shot at this point. Like, he doesn't need to be good. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. And I'm looking at the rest of the board there. Singletary, Michael Carter, Damian Harris, AJ Dillon. I'm not super interested in a lot of those. You hear the dog barking. She's not super interested in a lot of them either. Like you said, Hines is interesting. He doesn't have the same kind of upside that Zach Moss has, but he's interesting. Kenneth Gainwell is somewhat interesting as well. That's it. Jamal Williams is down there.
Yeah, I saw him. He's someone, having Swift already, I probably wouldn't want to double up, but he's someone that I think if I any roster I don't have Swift on, I'd really like to get in these mid to late rounds.
Yeah, and he's so far down the ADP that I could wait for him. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to lock in Moss. Assuming one of these quarterbacks will get back to me. There goes Trey Sermon and Corey Davis. I'm happy with that. I I will. Oh man, Jalen Hurts scares the hell out of me. But when you're playing this late, it's kind of like Lamar Jackson a few years ago, right? He was worrisome, but he was a league winner, and that's the kind of player that Jalen Hurts could be. So I'm going to take the upside shot on Jalen Hurts, and it scares me. But I feel like I'm going to be doing it a lot this year. I don't know if we'll be able to do it in our league, Will, a record, given a lot of Philly fans there. But
yeah.
For these mocks, I'm going to give it a go. Saw some tight ends go here. Irv Smith went, Singletary, T.Y. Hilton. There goes Goddard. I'm sure that was someone you were targeting. And then Austin Hooper.
Yeah, so Goddard, someone I was interested in, him and Irv Smith. But with both of them gone, I'm probably just looking at a couple of, kind of veteran tight ends that decent starters, but, not something that I'm going to jump the gun at here. Probably in the next round 2, 3, a guy like Logan Thomas, Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook, all three guys that I'd be okay getting, as just a decent starter. So looking here at the receiver and running back position once again, still have Michael Pittman on the board, someone that I'm pretty high on. Once again, uncertain about Carson, but I do like Michael Pittman, just the player. Curtis Samuel's interesting, Mecole Hardman, Robbie Anderson, Dante Parker. So some decent guys available there. I don't know that Pittman will get back to me, but I do need to go receiver or running back as well. So Michael Carter is an interesting option. This is really just Tevin Coleman and the rookie from last year, right? P. Ryan?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So Carter's a guy that's interesting. I don't know that I want to jump on it this early. And I feel like I might be able to wait another round and get a Nyheim Hines as kind of my fourth running back. That's just kind of a solid PPR guy. Who knows what's going to happen in that offense? And I don't know that I want to double down, but well, I guess, being that I only have 3 running backs, you definitely want to get that position a little more stout. And I've already got 5 receivers, so probably want to prioritize the position. So we're going to go with Michael Carter here. See, if Pittman gets back, great. If not, maybe Nyheim Hines could be a 5th running back there. So we're going to go Michael Carter. After Michael Carter, Curtis Samuel, Mecole Hardman, Devontae Parker, Logan Thomas, Robbie Anderson, Kirk Cousins, Damian Harris, and Hunter Henry. So got both of the guys I was thinking about get back to me here. We've got the tight end position, just have, a couple of guys still there. I don't know that I can afford to wait on them, but I think I'm going to try to gamble and see what happens if we do wait another round here. So we've got basically a choice between 2 Indianapolis players, Michael Pittman, Nyheim Hines. I like Pittman better, right? The position of need is probably Hines more. But I think I want to go with the guy that I think is just better value, right? Because if I can come away from this draft with now a 6th receiver, Michael Pittman, you have a guy like Lamb, Debo, Pittman that could all break down and be options for somebody. So I'm going to go with the value there, and we'll see what happens on the way back. I like to come away with, close to 50-50 when it comes to running backs and receivers, but receiver is definitely a position that I think, we'd be starting 3 here, two receivers and a flex.
Up to 4. So it's
up to 4 receivers.
Our format, which is a wide
Gotcha.
Receiver running back flex and a wide receiver tight end flex.
So we'll see. I mean, maybe there's a chance Hines gets back, probably not, but I'm going to go with just kind of the value here. That's kind of what I've been trying to do here in this first mock draft. So we're going to go Michael Pittman. After Pittman goes Gallup, Nyheim Hines right after him there. That's not AJ Brown, that's Antonio Brown. Probably a couple of years since AJ Brown went after Antonio Brown.
I know, for real.
With Ryan Tannehill and then AJ Dillon.
Man, Matt Ryan still being here is interesting.
Yeah, doubling down on the quarterback.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. So we do have 5 minutes left. We do need to fly through these last picks here.
Do it.
I, unlike your team, drafted running back throughout. So I feel like I got good depth there. I might not have the upside that like a Barkley Swift combo gives, but The running back room is filled out, and I'm not seeing a lot of depth. So, like, while I like a Jamal Williams kind of a guy, maybe a Gus Edwards, a solid depth kind of plays, I don't feel like I need to take that shot. Maybe I see upside in Gainwell, but I don't need to take the shot. So I'm just take running back shots, and I do need find that tight end. So first, we're going to take sorry, if I said running back shots, I mean wide receiver shots. So that's where we're going to make our picks here in the end. We have St. Brown, Marvin Jones, Terrence Marshall, Jalen Reagor, Christian Kirk, Crowder. So I say that, and there's not a ton of super interesting options here. But Mike,
we can make some trades. You got some running backs. I got some receivers. I think we're lined up.
We can make something work. Mike Williams is here a little bit further down the board, but he does interest me. If Herbert continues his ascension, or at least holds steady from last year, I would think Mike Williams can turn in a pretty solid year. So I will go ahead and lock in Mr. Mike Williams, and then I will go ahead and strike at tight end quickly. Oh man, I kind of regret grabbing Mike Williams because Jared Cook's here, but I don't want both of them. That's a shame. Should have thought that one through. But I will go with Blake Jarvin. I was drafting him last year. I wasn't as hyped as a lot of other people were, but we saw the success that Schultz had last year. I think that could translate to Jarwin. So we will go ahead and lock in Mr. Jarwin to take care of the tight end position. Matt Ryan, St. Brown, Mayfield, Marvin Jones, and Lev Bell right before you.
All right. So it gets back to me. Still need tight end. There's still two guys that I like. And there's two teams after me that have taken two already. So I think there's a good chance one gets back to me. It's not guaranteed because the other two teams could both take their second tight end. So Higbee and Cook, both an option here. Other than that, I'm looking at some running backs. And the guys I'm looking at are a little further down, just ranking-wise. But guys that I think will be good stashes here is my fifth guy. Really looking at guys that you're probably going to play second fiddle, but could break out if the guy ahead of them gets hurt. And that's Darrell Henderson, Jamal Williams. If I didn't have Swift, I really went double down there. But Gus Edwards is another good one. So guys that, are basically second fiddle to some second-year guys that we really like. But, we'll see what happens. Probably can get one of them in the next round, so I don't know if I want to strike at tight end. I probably am, especially here with Higbee still there, with Jared Cook. We'll see. Yeah, and I gotta keep convincing myself that this is not the Rams that we're used to. Especially, they're probably going to want to run the ball a good bit, but with Stafford there, you got to imagine that they're going to be able to throw the ball, and just trying to figure out kind of where Higbee falls in the in the depth chart there. Probably third option, right? You got Van Jefferson, you got some other rookies, but outside of Woods and Kupp, it's really just Higbee. And then Cook probably is third option there as well, you'd think. You got Mike Williams, you got Keenan Allen, I guess Eckler as well, so maybe a little further down. So I think Higbee probably a little bit higher up on the chart there. So we'll go Higbee and see which of those running backs gets back to me here in the next round. You got Christian Kirk, Trey Lance, Tony Pollard, Sony Michel, Terrace Marshall, Jalen Reagor, Mark Ingram, and Chuba Hubbard off the board. So probably looking to go running back with the last couple spots here. And a couple guys that I like in Darrell Henderson and Gus Edwards. To differentiate team-wise a little bit, we're probably going to go with Gus Edwards just to get a different team on there since I just took a Ram before. So we'll go with Gus Edwards. I think that the game, that team is going to run the ball a lot more too. So I do think Gus is going to get 30%, 35%, maybe even 40% of the running back rushing attempts. And then, you're going to have most of it with Dobbins. But I do like Gus Edwards, so getting him here as my fifth running back, pretty happy about that. After him, Alexander Madison, Darrell Henderson, Tariq Cohen, Jamison Crowder, Mr. Sterling Shepard, to you.
So there's two wide receivers that really jump out at me. Pretty simple explanation-wise. Henry Ruggs, find to be great value. Going to go ahead and just lock him in, entering his second year. They didn't draft anyone. You had T. Higgins go last year when they went to turn around and drafted Chase. That didn't happen to Ruggs. So there's some level of confidence there. And if it doesn't work out, hopefully he's a D-Jax kind of boom bust guy. Got to stop using that reference because people are going to stop forgetting.
Yeah, people aren't going to know what you're talking about after a while.
For real. Zach Wilson and McKissick went after me. And then the other interesting one that I'm finding here, and it's a bit of a roll of the dice, is Russell Gage. That's more of a play on Julio potentially getting traded. And I'm not just going to write all that volume and give it all to Pitts and assume he's going to have some magical, rookie year for a tight end. So I think Gage could be a pretty good beneficiary. We've seen some fantasy relevant games from him before. So we'll lock him in there as a depth play. There goes Jamal Williams, Philip Lindsay, Elijah Moore, Mooney, Cole Beasley, our boy. And your last pick is up, Will.
Yeah, so this, going back to the running back position as we're trying to get some more depth there. I've got Barkley, Swift, and Hunt earlier in the draft. Michael Carter right in the middle toward the end, and then just Gus Edwards in the last round. So probably still looking for upside guys. A guy that's interesting, not on the upsides, is James White. He's someone that I think is going to be usable likely, but also someone you're probably not going to feel comfortable cutting. So that's typically something where I'm a little iffy about. Another interesting guy you got is Javion Hawkins, a rookie for Atlanta. He's someone I think, unlikely to do anything, but he's a guy that can kind of see what I get in the first week or two and then feel okay cutting bait because maybe he turns it on later in the year, maybe not. So I'd kind of rather take an upside shot there that could open up a roster spot after week 1 or 2. So that's why I would kind of look for a guy like Hawkins. There's really not too much else here. So we'll take an upside shot with another rookie running back here and go Javion Hawkins. After him, Nelson Aguilar, Pat Freiermuth, Latavius Murray, and Cam Newton, last pick of the draft.
There we go. So we're already over on time, Will. Let's we could skip the running down of our teams. But what do you think of this initial draft?
Yeah, pretty happy. I'm happy with where my team worked out. Still, not really knowing how all the ADPs were since this is the first one I've done in a while. But yeah, I don't think there's a ton of reaches outside of Sleeper just always having double quarterback, double tight end on a lot of teams.
Yeah, it seemed to do even more of that than normal from what I remember. Mm-hmm. Most of these teams have 2 quarterbacks. So that's definitely going to shake some things up and mess with the ADPs. I don't know. I see a lot of upside with my team, but it seems like your stereotypical Steve rolling the dice kind of a team. We're hoping McLaurin, takes that step forward. Mike Davis seems like a good value, but could just be whatever. Jerry Judy, we're hoping for a step forward. If Mike Davis is just kind of blah, then Zach Moss is hinging things on him, and he could be blah. Jalen Hurts is a roll of the dice. So, on and on. So it seems pretty typical from there, but the upside for that team is also sky high. So yeah, it's an interesting team, interesting exercise early in the offseason here.
Yeah, so much for not running down your team.
I know, right? I promise. Yeah, went through everyone. So I think next week we're thinking Dynasty Startup Mock, Will?
Yeah, switch it up. I think this is, kind of right in the heart of the Dynasty Startup Mock season. Maybe, the last month. Probably May is more for that right after the NFL draft. But you'd imagine May and June before people really shift to redraft.
Yeah, sure. So we will do that next week. So tune in next week to check that out. Until then, folks, trust your board.